We are back on Morning Line. Our guest is Cameron Sexton. He is Speaker of the House here in the state of Tennessee. You like being Speaker?
It has its good days, yeah. I mean, I enjoy policy. I enjoy working with our great governor and members of the General Assembly.
Tell me about some bad days.
About bad days? Well, I mean, bad days were when we had COVID hit a couple of years ago. We've had tornadoes. We've had this. We've been dealing with a lot of things for the last 2 years that I've been Speaker, and it feels like a long time.
Yeah, I bet. Well, thank you again for coming on today. Appreciate it. Listen, I wanted to get a little bit more into the Ford deal and how that works out. Again, how much money is it? How much are they on?
Well, so the state was $500 million, and then there's some other incentives on top of it. I think the total deal is $800 because we're building a TCAT. We have to build a new exit ramp off the interstate and do some infrastructure. The total's $800 million, but it was $500 million to Ford.
And what Ford will bring to the state?
Well, they're bringing about $5.6 billion in investment, 5,700 jobs between the two facilities. They're going to transform West Tennessee and give people more opportunities and hope than their grandparents ever had.
Can you give me a sense at all, not that you were directly involved with this, with how much competition was there for this Ford? Obviously, several states were probably in the running, and I know that Tennessee, probably made a very nice offer to them. But any idea how that worked out?
It usually starts off in 20 states, and these businesses pick where they want to go. And
they identify the states, and then they put it out there.
You can go talk to them, but they're going to go where they want to go. And Tennessee got down to the final three. I think it was between us, Alabama, and Georgia. They were going to the south. And so they did a lot of visits, and we thought we had them for a while, then we didn't, then we did, like anything else. But when it finally did land, it was great news. But, they wanted to come to West Tennessee because we had the largest piece of property. We're willing to invest in infrastructure and do other things, build a TCAT to help them give people skills to go to work there. So there's a lot of things that we could do to really help.
I guess part of it, I don't know, they're going to hire a lot of people, obviously. Right. And we were talking, just coming back from the break, about, you were at Dollywood this weekend, huh?
We were in Sevier County.
And were they shorthanded?
Oh, yes. So Sevier County is short 1,500 employees in the county. They have 1,500 jobs and only 400 people in unemployment. Dollywood says they could use 750 employees right now.
Yeah. Okay. So in general, and Ford's coming, and hopefully they'll hire, and hopefully they'll have a workforce to draw from. But let's nip this in the bud real quick. How long ago did the state, just go back to normal unemployment, not including the federal dollars? It's been 6 months?
Yeah, 8 months ago.
6 or 8 months ago. So there are some out there saying everyone is shorthanded because there's still a bunch of people sitting at home getting rich on unemployment, which is a joke to even say that to begin with. But some were making more. But in the state of Tennessee went back and said, hey, we're going back to normal unemployment, which is only about $270 a week, which is not a whole lot. So what do you think's going on here with unemployment and the fact that everywhere, Nashville, elsewhere, employers are desperate?
They are.
For employees.
Well, I think you've seen a shift where people wanting to work. The hospitality industry is the one that has the most job openings. And I think when you went through COVID and you had different areas shut down businesses or go half capacity and lay off staff, that staff went somewhere else. Because what they started doing is you had jobs in other sectors that were paying more. They might have loved being a waiter or waitress or whatever it was in that restaurant or a manager, but they saw other opportunities. And so they went to fill other jobs because our state's growing so fast and we have so many businesses moving in. There's a lot of opportunities there for you. And I think what you've seen is a shift in where people are working out of hospitality into other areas.
So what does that mean then? I mean, the experience you just had this past weekend or otherwise, I mean, the hospitality industry, the solution, I suppose, and they may not be able to do this, is pay more.
Well, just one.
What other solutions? I mean, you want to get it back to it. A lot of these businesses reopening, some of them never did. But what can the state lawmakers do to address this?
Well, I mean, they could close part, not offer as many services, maybe change their menu if it's in that. Hotels are innovating if they don't have enough people to clean rooms, and they give you points to not clean your room that day, right? You've seen restaurants like fast food and other areas do more kiosk, so that they just have people back there preparing food. They don't have to have 3 people at the counter taking orders. The one interesting place that I've seen a lot of people working, which seems like it hasn't been affected, is a Chick-fil-A. You walk into a Chick-fil-A, They got employees all over the place. They're not missing a beat. So the real question is, what are they doing that others could be doing? Is it more pay? Is it benefits? Is it the generations
They just have a
who are
great
working
business
there?
model, it
Correct.
seems like.
And so I think what this really does is kind of like what the hospitals had to go through in our state a couple of years ago when hospitals were closing. Everybody was blaming expansion. It wasn't because of expansion. It was you couldn't have a hospital thriving in a small community with a hospital 30 to 45 minutes away. That business model was not working anymore, and they had to go through a redesign of it. I think that's what's going to have to happen in the hospitality industry.
Okay, I think you're probably right. It's just, it's a shame. You wonder if at some point we've gone through what might be a permanent shift. I don't know, to some degree, if it ever opens up to be the way it was in the past. We'll have fewer restaurants, maybe not be able to rely so much on the service that you were accustomed to.
Maybe, or you might go to a smaller restaurant. Like, you have boutique hotels because people are wanting a different feel than a big hotel. You now have boutique hospitals, right? Where people want more one-on-one interaction. They want more services. They want more hospitality, right? And so what you see is the society shaping how that business is going to go. And I think we're in that innovation area and technology, and we'll see what happens in the next 5 years.
You spend a lot of time, obviously, in Nashville. You're here. You get to see it. I'm just curious, from your point of view, as you see this city, which to me still, I mean, there's some great cities in this state, but it's the crown jewel with how much we have here and the like, the transportainment issue here. And I guess I get confused sometimes between, what is exactly, mandated or controlled by the city and some, at the state level, whether, the party buses and the like. And the issue with this of balancing business and growth and money that's to be made with, the traffic flow, and at what point do you kind of pull back on the reins a bit and say no? You've probably gotten caught in some of this traffic behind a party bus.
Well, you just have to walk down the street.
Yes, you can't miss it, right?
Right.
I mean, what as you look at that, and are there things that the state can look at with regard to addressing it? And maybe it's mostly just Nashville, possibly a situation in Memphis to a degree, but Nashville's where it's at.
Nashville's where it's at for now, but usually these things will expand, right?
Yeah, right,
And so they're going to go. We're going to work with Mayor Cooper on this, as well as the business owners on Lower Broad, and as well as the members of the General Assembly from Davidson County. It is an issue. It seems like it's a little out of hand. You got all of them. It takes up traffic flow. There's a lot of people who say it's not kid-friendly downtown once it gets to about 6 o'clock because of what they see on these party buses. And so I think there's some path to go. How we get to that point, I'm not sure how you do a delicate balance of it. But something needs to be done. There's a couple of those things where you just look at and you're like, I don't know we can do that.
Right. I mean, as we saw the story done a while back with those students protesting out front of Hume Fog, because these party buses go back past and playing so much loud music, and then they're trying to go to classes. Got a call or two. We'll take a call from Ray. Ray, good morning. Hi, Ray.
Yeah, I got a question for him.
Sure.
I agree with looking about the school board members and stuff like that, but shouldn't it start with their sales? And then we have a state representative down in Marshall County that ran for office that it just took bankruptcy on $20 million, couldn't pay $20 million, and took bankruptcy that Channel 5 did a report on, and then come around with $120 million and got investigated by the FBI. Don't we need to look at the top people in government, the governor, and put restrictions on who runs for governor, and look at his backgrounds and their backgrounds and see if they're the ones that need investigating more than the small people around struggling with the big and working with their way down?
I don't know if he was being specific, but let's face it, if you're running for public office these days, you are scrutinized like never before. Would you agree?
You are. I had a bill, to answer his point, I had a bill a few years ago that I got to the House floor. We couldn't get passed on the Senate side, so I didn't take up the final vote, which was for elected officials, you had to release your credit score. Because how you do your personal finances will dictate how you're going to do public finances. And so if someone has had multiple bankruptcies, or if someone has a very low credit score because they haven't paid off their debt or they're incurring lots of debt, I think a credit score is an interesting way to go about it. And I think that was something I was trying to push years ago. I got a lot of pushback on it. But I think there's certain things that you can do, and I think that was one avenue to help uncover people who are being good stewards of their own money who may be good stewards of the tax taxpayers' money.
Yeah, it's a reflection of it, I suppose.
Right.
I mean, and people who run for public office that ran private businesses, you look at how that business was run.
Right.
And we've had, let's face it, a lot of businessmen that have become governors.
Right.
Right? From our sitting governor to Governor Bredesen.
Yeah,
I mean, that's one way to look at it, I suppose. Do you think things are transparent enough?
Well, I mean, probably not. I mean, there's always could be more transparency.
So you have some secrets.
Well, everybody has those, right? And so what I will say though is as people are running for office, you try to be as transparent as you can, as well as trying to keep some things personal, just personal life and stuff, right? And so, but as far as trying to open up the books on what he was talking about, financial stuff and that sort of stuff, just releasing tax returns doesn't tell you much of anything other than how much taxes you pay. It doesn't tell you how good you've been with your money. And so that's where I went a few years ago with the credit score, trying to get us to a point where you at least had some transparency on how they were doing with their money and have an indication of what they would do with taxpayers.
All right. With regard to, it just made me think of this when you talked about running and electing folks and things like this. See, a lot of states doing it, and Tennessee's going to do it as well. The whole idea, the redistricting, and how that can reshape everything. I don't know, you're Republican, and let's face it, there aren't many Democrats in the state house, but you can redistrict to basically, and including here in Davidson County, to basically make it wherever it is, more likely for a certain candidate to be elected, can't you?
You could. Now, you have different parameters that you have to live within in redistricting, whether you're talking about Congress or state or Senate, House or Senate, right? House and Senate, there's always been court cases. We can only, on the House side, we can only split so many counties. There's something called perfect counties, which is if Metro had 700,000 people and the district was 70,000, that's 10 reps. So all 10 have to be inside Davidson County. Nobody can go outside and nobody else can come in. So there's things already laid out that keeps us from gerrymandering to what people think on the House side. But we try to work with all the members, all 99 members on their districts, and let them know what they like, what they don't like, what the trends are. In some areas you have to get smaller, in some areas you have to get bigger.
So the idea behind redistricting, if you're not saying it's politically motivated in certain ways, is based on population. It's time to rejigger things.
That's right. Everybody, every 10 years you're supposed to start with the same level population across the state.
Okay, and so and the population centers can change. It can alter. A place can lose some, and one that picks up, and so you redistrict a bit. But other concerns can come into play as well, can't they?
I mean, they could. West Tennessee's losing 2, East Tennessee's losing 1. They're all coming to Middle Tennessee, and so there's 3 new seats that are going to be created in Middle Tennessee based on the population.
Okay, and you can get a sense of the area there and how the lines are drawn. Which is more of one party or the other, can you not?
You can, but you get to a certain point where you start getting to that detail, then you start changing, because when you make one change here, that affects everything else across the state, right? And so you have to be very careful about how you go about doing it. We're starting from east and moving west, and we think that's the better way. And as we progress, if we go back and have to make a change in mid-East Tennessee, that changes everybody. And so we try not to do that.
All right. Listen, as I bounce around on this, we touched bases on the fact that the governor, you think, can you give me a sense of, and we talked about this before the show started, but what the governor will do?
I'm hopeful he will sign the bill or not sign it and let it become law. We've had conversations. I'm not sure that he talked to us, gave us the same answer that he gave the media just last week. And so they're still looking at it. He's having a legal look at it. That's about all I know.
And the options on that for him, again, are, as you said, he doesn't have to sign it. He can just let it go. He can sign it, or he can veto it. Can he veto portions of it, or it's all kit and caboodle, the whole omnibus?
All or nothing. And there's a lot of things in there that, if you disagree with something, you have monoclonal antibodies in there, you have mature minor doctrine in there, you have the business COVID liability that's in there. So there's a lot of things in there that I don't think you want to veto. Yeah,
that you don't. And by the way, you mentioned that about the liability. Is COVID on the job workers' comp?
It can be workers' comp. What we do is we put a right to action. So if as we talked, you don't have to compel to show proof, but your business your employer can still mandate that you take it. If you feel like you need to take it to keep your job, right, because you don't want to lose your job, you want to stay where you're at because you're close to retirement or it's good benefits, and you take it and you have adverse reactions, we remove that section out of the COVID liability part where that business is now liable, and there's a cause to action to go to court for that employee.
Gotcha. Going to take a break. Back with our final segment right after this with the Speaker of the House. Stay with us.